President Lee Jae Myung and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump sat down for their second summit on this Wednesday, this time in the South Korean city of Gyeongju, on the margins of the APEC leaders meeting, which opens on Friday this week. Hello and welcome to Press Perspective for this Wednesday, October 29th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sunhee. Today we touch upon the latest bilateral meeting between President Lee Jae Myung and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump in the city of Gyeongju that took place this afternoon. For more on this, I have freelance journalist Raphael Rashid here in the studio. Raphael, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I also have Professor Kim Young-jun at the Korea National Defense University live on the line. Professor Kim, it's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Right, Raphael, let's begin here in the studio. So what has been shared about the summit between President Lee Jae Myung and his US counterpart Donald Trump here in South Korea on this Wednesday?
Yeah, I think the summit disclosed kind of significant developments on both trade and defense fronts, with, I think, substantive discussions on alliance modernization. So on trade, Donald Trump announced during his APEC CEO summit keynote, he noted that our deal with the Republic of Korea will be finalized very soon. And of course, this deal concerns the stalled $350 billion investment framework from July in exchange for reduced tariffs. And Trump also emphasized the expanding shipbuilding partnership, stating we're very serious partners, we're really wedded, and basically predicting a very thriving shipbuilding industry kind of together with South Korea. The actual bilateral summit, the talks lasted 87 minutes. So not too long ago, they just ended, and at least the first 13 minutes of which were kind of public, and we could all watch it. But during these, at least the early part of this discussions, a lot of talk on the alliance modernization, and also President Lee Jae Myung committed to significantly increasing spending on defense and the defense industry and development, of course, to reduce the burden on the United States. At least that's the way it was framed. And also, President Lee Jae Myung noted that South Korea spends 1.5 times North Korea's entire GDP on defense and ranks fifth globally in military capability. One of the highlights, I think, was Lee specifically requesting for nuclear submarine cooperation. He asked Trump to make a decision to allow us, South Korea, to receive nuclear submarine fuel supply, clarifying this is not for nuclear weapons, but addressing limitations when it comes to diesel on submarines, and that they would be using conventional weapons, and it's all about protecting the waters on both sides of the Korean Peninsula, and in case of if they want to detect North Korean or Chinese submarines. So that was basically what he was asking for. Lee also requested kind of practical progress on spent nuclear fuel reprocessing and uranium enrichment cooperation. President Trump was very kind of cooperative and kind of referenced their good partnership, and also addressed what he called the lingering cloud over Korea, of course, the kind of the Korean War and whatnot, and saying that we're going to try and do something about it and straighten things out, given that Trump has been framed as someone who's bringing peace around the world.
Right, and Professor Kim, speaking as a scholar in the field of defense, what are some of your takeaways from this latest face-to-face between the leaders of Seoul and Washington?
Yeah, today is a very good conversation between Trump and Lee Jae Myung. They praised each other as a peacemaker and great guy, as a great powerful handshake to each other. And this was a very good starting point. And also, they continue to talk about, already Raphael pointed out, they have a lot of discussion, especially on the new 1-2-3 agreement on the nuclear power plant deal, and also uranium enrichment, and also nuclear power submarine, just like Japanese Prime Minister suggests. So President Lee Jae Myung really want to have some kind of a promise or agreement of President Trump on this very sensitive issue, which has been the kind of top issue between the two over the 10 years. But now Lee Jae Myung is openly say about we will increase defense budget just like you request, and we will also want to have kind of a new 1-2-3 agreement between the two, and nuclear power engineer submarine. So now it'll be a very good conversation, and for tomorrow as well. And they also talk about Kim Jong-un, and there will be no possibility for another meeting maybe this time, but this will be continue for Trump to take peacemaking process for the Korean Peninsula. And Lee Jae Myung also praised Trump as a peacemaker role, and he'll be pacemaker for the Korean Peninsula. So Trump will take this initiative for a while, and it'll be good opportunity for Korean Peninsula to take another normalization chance between the U.S. and DPRK.
Right. Well, Mr. Trump did ask for some patience with regard to potential talks with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Raphael, if I were to ask you to compare the second summit between the leaders of Seoul and Washington to their first encounter at the Oval Office back in August, what would you choose to highlight?
I think the contrast between the two summits was, of course, pronounced. But if anything, I think it reflects a dramatic evolution in their relationship. Both summits, I think, went well, but I think this time was all about the optics. Of course, when we look back at their December encounter, I think it started off, just before they met, it started off on a tense note, and Trump was kind of posting kind of threatening remarks on social media hours before meeting. So it wasn't too sure what was going on. But then overall, I think when they did meet in the Oval Office, I think it was for about 2 hours. It ultimately ended cordially, and there were a few exchanges of gifts and a little bit of, jokes and laughter. So I think that was great, but that was, of course, in Trump's domain in the Oval Office, and of course, President Lee tried to charm Donald Trump. But I think for today's summit represents maybe a kind of complete transformation in terms of grandeur and formality. Trump was basically given a full kind of state welcome at the historic Gyeongju and at the National Museum in Gyeongju. He was given a 21-gun salute. When Air Force One was kind of descending near the peninsula, we saw these F-16 fighter jets, kind of an escort. He was also given a traditional military band that was playing. So there was a lot of ceremonial pomp. And this also, of course, included Trump being awarded the Grand Order of Mugunghwa, which is South Korea's highest decoration. And this makes Donald Trump the first US president to receive Korea's highest decoration for his role, they said, in peacemaking. I think then there was also President Lee presented Trump with a replica of a Shilla golden crown, and I think, they said that this represents long-standing peace and a new era of peaceful coexistence. So I think, definitely the optics, the grandeur. Trump described their bond as special and praised the kind of flawlessly done kind of performance or welcome, like this spectacle that he's never seen anything like it. So I think, overall, this was definitely quite a spectacle for everyone involved.
Right. And Professor Kim, as we've been saying, a major aspect of the relationship between South Korea and the US is their security alliance. Now, well before their summits, their face-to-face meetings, there had been talk about a possible reduction in US troop presence here on the Korean Peninsula. Where do you stand with regard to this potential reality, Professor Kim?
Yes, almost everybody talks when Trump start second administration, and everybody were worried about Trump will reduce or even withdraw U.S. forces in Korea because of MAGA initiative or something. But there is no open discussion yet about the reduction of USFK or even withdrawal of the USFK in the Pentagon or in the White House. But there's anyway open possibility for reduction of USFK, not because of Trump or MAGA initiative, but because of this is a natural reshaping process of the USFK. This is not just about Trump. During the Biden administration, even Obama administration, there was a plan to reshape U.S. military architecture in Indo-Pacific because against the rise of Chinese military, U.S. concerned about they want to have a more powerful Navy and Air Forces in the Pacific, and they want to reshape military architecture, including Japan, Korea, and also Philippine area against the possible Taiwan issue as well. So this is not about just MAGA Trump issue. This is more about U.S. military itself for reshaping process. So we need to wait and see how will be influenced about the Korean Peninsula security issue. And this is not just about negative issue. This will be more opportunity for the ROK military as well to increase our own self-military capability, also in strengthening ROK U.S. military alliances for a while.
Right, and for some background information, Raphael, with regard to wartime operational control, where do the two administrations stand?
Yeah, I think both administrations are quite aligned when it comes to this transition, this OPCOM transfer, though I think both of them have different emphasis on the timeline or how to realize this. The Lee Jae Myung administration has made wartime operational control transfer a cornerstone policy, and President Lee himself has kind of made the kind of commitment to realize this within his 5-year term, so I think by 2030. Even during the Armed Forces Day commemorations the other day, he declared that South Korea will restore wartime operational control authority and lead the joint defense posture of South Korea and the US. And of course, his rationale kind of centers on sovereignty and military autonomy, which is one of the key aspects or words that he keeps on emphasizing, this military autonomy. Even the Defense Ministry and Quebec also has been quite vocal about this and has said that kind of regardless of whether the US wants it or not, we really must transfer OPCON soon. The Trump administration, I think, has expressed also very strong support regarding this, but emphasizes kind of conditions-based approach. We've seen recently a senior US defense official stating recently that the US is very much supporting about this, supports South Korea doing more to lead its conventional defenses and deterrence against North Korea. And then we've also seen the defense secretary in the US as well saying that he very much looks forward to discussing this, and there are going to be discussions, of course, next week in Seoul. The two sides will be coming together. But Washington, of course, does insist on meeting conditions that were established, I believe it was in 2014, South Korea's capabilities to lead combined forces, then enhanced strike and air defense capabilities against North Korean threats, and also a conducive regional security environment. So I think, of course, the US is looking forward to it, just a kind of make sure that everything is on the table, know what you're doing essentially, and don't go too fast because, take things one step at a time seems to be the message coming out. So I think both sides have agreed recently that there has been significant progress being made on both sides and in meeting these three conditions. And hopefully, if it goes according to plan, could be fulfilled within Lee's term.
Right, and against this backdrop, Professor Kim, the phrase strategic flexibility, it's been thrown around that is quite a bit in recent times. Essentially, with regard to ties between Seoul and Washington, Professor Kim, what are the broader implications of this phrase if it is put into practice?
Yeah, we have heard the strategic flexibility for the last 10 or 15 years. This was not a new issue. This was from the Obama administration or Trump first administration, Biden administration. They talked about the strategic flexibility. And for example, USFK commander and the Indo-Pacific commander, Pentagon Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth talked about the number one priority is China and Taiwan issue. So they want to use USFK or US forces in Japan, whatever they want, just like against a possible Taiwan contingency plan or something. So it depends on US decision, not our decision. But traditionally, Rang military or Korean people really concerned about USFK only play the role against North Korean military threat, not China, because they don't want to engage any kind of a possibility for the Taiwan contingency plan. Now, but this is the all about U.S. decision, and they definitely will have a talk about this one with the ROK military, not just by their own decision. But this is a reality. This is all about the modernization of the ROK U.S. alliance, and we need to talk about this one, and we need to open discussion how USFK will be the new role, and also ROK military with maybe possible open transfer the change time, what is the role for the ROK military or US military, we need to open discussion. So strategic flexibility is not just about negative issue, but it's more about the modernization of the ROK US military from the old conception. And now Trump want to have a tension reduction with the North Korea. This is a good thing for the Korean Peninsula security issue. So this is all relevant to not just single issue. So we need to talk about Kim Jong-un issue, also possible U.S. The modernization concept together. So we'll open this discussion, and strategic flexibility is very closely relevant to the open transfer issue, also modernization of the ROK U.S. military.
Right, and speaking about reducing tensions with North Korea, en route to Asia, Mr. Trump, Raphael, claimed North Korea was, and I quote, sort of a nuclear power. Now, this is not the first time that he's made reference to the regime as a nuclear state. Could you tell us a bit about the response from South Korea?
Sure. I mean, just like you said, I mean, this isn't the first time we hear this. Trump, his comments, I think, have kind of escalated a little bit in terms of their directness. And of course, this was when he was on Air Force One the other day. He said, I think that they're sort of a nuclear power. And then he went further saying, well, they've got a lot of nuclear weapons, and I have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I know how many weapons he has. So that was kind of the context. And again, this isn't the first time he's used these kind of words to describe North Korea. He used kind of similar terminology. I think it was during his inauguration ceremony as well, a few months ago, mentioned it several times. And then, he's been quite, but I think this time he's been a bit more explicit, because when he was asked, will you recognize North Korea as a nuclear state? And then that was the answer that he gave. So this is a bit more of the context. So I think his answers are quite candid and maybe more forward-leaning, at least this time round. Again, it kind of contradicts the official vocabulary that is being used even when he was in Japan with the new Prime Minister Takaichi. They affirmed their resolute commitment to the complete denuclearization of North Korea in their joint statement. So it kind of highlights the inconsistency with official, formal statements in diplomatic settings and positions with his more candid press kind of remarks. Of course, in South Korea, the response has been, I think, measured but firm. A presidential official noted in local media that South Korea and the US are closely cooperating in accordance with their joint goal of denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, and emphasized that Trump's remarks should be understood as kind of referencing North Korea's advancing nuclear capabilities rather than kind of formal recognition. And then we also had the Minister of Foreign Affairs, also Jo Hyun, who also clarified, stating that Trump's use of the word or term nuclear power doesn't constitute recognition per se, but again, it's the nuclear weapons development. So I think South Korea is trying to downplay without offending or trying to upset Trump and saying that he's wrong, but trying to downplay the kind of the words that are being used.
Right. Keeping this in mind then, Professor Kim, what do you believe are the broader implications of Mr. Trump's remarks about North Korea's nuclear status?
Yeah, Trump many times said North Korea is a sort of a nuclear power. Does not mean kind of an official status of the under the NPT treaty, like the UK or France or US, China, Russia. So Trump said is about reality, sort of a nuclear power means it's kind of opening the possibility to have a dialogue with Kim Jong-un, not giving legal status of the nuclear power. So we don't have to so much sensitive about the this kind of Trump saying. He just want to have a kind of a threat or tension reduction approach rather than all or nothing approach, because over the 30 years, CVID or complete denuclearization has been failed, and North Korea, whether international community or South Korea accept or not, they continuously develop their own nuclear and missile capabilities. So Trump had a new approach, and President Lee Jae Myung also want to have a realistic approach to the reduction of the nuclear threat by renormalization between US and DPRK and the South and North Korea. So this is not about the official status under the NPT treaty. Trump said he want to have a talk, he want to have a dialogue. So our goal between the ROC and US and Japan is a complete denuclearization. Why not? But just like unification, the goal is unification, but as a process, as a methodology, we can have a diverse the process to reduce nuclear threat. So Trump is saying in that way, rather than giving official status of NPT treaty to North Korea. So we need to use this opportunity for having more peaceful Korean Peninsula rather than just all or nothing approach. Without any kind of a dialogue, North Korea will continue anyway nuclear development, especially under the kind of a no effect of a Chinese Russian sanction. So this will be a good opportunity, and Trump approach is pretty showing kind of a realistic situation on the Korean Peninsula.
Right, to reduce tensions, of course, here in this part of the world. All right, Professor Kim, as always, thank you very much for your insights today.
Thank you very much.
And Raphael, as always, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
Right, that ends this edition of Press Perspective. Thank you for watching. Do join us again same time tomorrow.